Okay, so what if I told you that the Torah opens its holiest place, the temple, the altar, the world's spiritual epicenter, not just to Israel, but to all humanity? In a world of tribal gods, national deities, and closed rituals, the Torah makes a radical move. It tells us that B'nai Noach not only can bring offerings to God, but that those offerings are welcome, meaningful, and deeply holy. We live at a time when the temple is not currently standing. Sheyabane Beit HaMikdash b'mheira v'yameinu. Amen. Hopefully we will see the restoration of the Beit HaMikdash in our time. And sacrifices might feel like a thing of the past, but today your sincerity still matters. Your offering is still real. Because even in a post-temple world, the Torah says, let the nations come and offer. And so today's talk is about this question. What does the Torah say about a Noahide ability to give? And what does God accept? In Parshat Emor, this is Leviticus chapter 22, verses 18 through 25, the Torah lays down the laws of who can bring what on the altar. The text begins with this: Speak to Aaron and his sons and to all the children of Israel, and say to them, any man of the house of Israel or of the strangers in Israel who brings his offering, etc. From the outset, the Torah includes the stranger, the non-Jew. His offering is brought for any of their vows or free will offerings, whether it's thanksgiving, a donation, or a moment of spiritual elevation. But then comes verse 25, which says, and from a foreigner's hand you shall not offer the bread of your God from any of these, because their corruption is in them. So we have to take a step back. Is the Torah contradicting itself? Verse 18 says non-Jews may bring offerings. Verse 25 seems to say that they may not. So what's going on? The sages, Chazal, resolve this very beautifully. A Jew may bring both obligatory and voluntary offerings. There are specific offerings that are required: sin offerings, guilt offerings, etc. Or what we call the tamid, which is brought on a daily basis twice a day. But a Noahide may bring voluntary offerings only, like an olah, the elevation offering, the burnt offering. So when verse 25 says, do not bring these from the hand of a foreigner, Chazal tell us that this is referring to blemished animals, not offerings in general. Tosfot and the Rambam in Hilchot Maaseh HaKorbanot rule very clearly that even a Gentile may offer a burnt offering so long as it's unblemished. And if we look at Maaseh HaKorbanot over there, and also this halacha in Hilchot Isuri Mizbeach, which I mentioned in the beginning, it adds that although a non-Jew may bring offerings on a private altar, okay, B'nai Noach are allowed to make sacrifices and bring sacrifices on altars that they themselves have built anywhere they want to do that. I mean, it sounds a bit exotic, right? This is not something that people do, but it can be done. So the detail that we're learning here is that although a ben or bat Noach can bring an offering on a private altar, and in such a case, the only prohibition for the offering is that the animal should not be missing a limb, because then you're bringing like an incomplete item. That's fine out there in the field somewhere. But when this person brings an offering to the temple, it must meet the same unblemished standards as Israel's own offerings. Right? In the precinct of the Beit HaMikdash, in the temple, the standards are higher. The standards are uniform. The temple was open to the nations of the world, so long as the offering was whole. And unblemished doesn't only mean physically, it means whole in spirit, that the person offering it is doing so sincerely to honor God with proper intention, at the proper time, and through proper means. The offering reflects a desire to serve God rather than to manipulate him. And it has to be brought in accordance with his will, meaning there are technical specifications for sacrifices. As the Rambam writes on Leviticus chapter 1, verse 9, the purpose of a korban, a sacrifice, is for a person to envision himself as the one being offered, coming with a broken and contrite heart. As we see in the Psalms in chapter 51, verse 19, the sacrifices of God are a broken spirit, a broken and contrite heart, O God, you will not despise. That's not to say that the sacrifice is unnecessary because all you need is the right emotional makeup. What it means is that if a person has really no interest in their relationship with God, or let's say in the case of a sin offering or a guilt offering, the person has no remorse for what they did. They're just doing a public act to show everybody else that they have repented. That's a meaningless act. Ultimately, it's there to trigger a mindset in terms of our relationship with God, our relationship with his mitzvot, etc. Meaning that even when one is not obligated to bring an offering, such as is the case with B'nai Noach, the ideal is still the same: sincerity, submission, and inner wholeness. Rashi says that verse 25, this is chapter 22, verse 25, refers to offerings that are acquired through robbery or deceit. That's why these things should not be accepted. God rejects them not because of the identity of the giver, but because the offering itself is tainted because of the robbery or through the deceit. And the Rambam goes further. He says something amazing. He says that even an idolater, even an Ovid Avodah Zarah, somebody who is actually an idolater, can nevertheless, if they are sincere at the time that they are bringing a sacrifice, they can bring an olah, they can bring an elevation offering. The altar is a place of reconciliation, not perfection. You don't have to be a perfect person. I mean, none of us are. But your intentions have to be there. Your sincerity has to be there. And we see a medrash in Sifra on this parsha that says the gates of the temple were never locked to the nations of the world. It's not vague pluralism. It's radical access with radical responsibility. Hashem welcomes every sincere heart, but what we offer must be ethically clean. It has to be spiritually intentional. It's not about ritual exclusivity. It's more about inner readiness to approach. I've had this question before, and many Noahides ask, you might see it out there in cyberspace. And it's a fair question, it's a heartfelt question. If we love Hashem and we want to serve him, but where's the ritual? Can we just go out and build an altar and bring sacrifices? Now, the first time I heard the question, I was like, you know, I mean, we haven't offered sacrifices, unfortunately, for the past 2,000 years. So it's a bit, you know, these days we just don't see it. The yearning that this person asking the question has is real. It comes from wanting to give something tangible, something sacred, something ancient. And absolutely, the Torah affirms that this instinct to give is holy. I mean, the book of Genesis is filled with people who offered sacrifices. Adam, Noah, Cain, Abel. Sacrifice is part of humanity's original spiritual grammar. But today, without a temple, without a divine command, Chazal caution against building private altars. Not because the desire is wrong, but because the context matters. The ritual must be holy and whole, which is why the prophet Hosea offers us a spiritual upgrade. It says the following: we will offer the bulls of our lips. That's Hosea chapter 14, verse 3. What is he saying here? What are the bulls of our lips? Our prayers, our praises, our words of yearning, these are our korbanot. These are the sacrifices that we make to God, even in the absence of a Beit HaMikdash. And this, if you think about it, just the historical context, this is a stark contrast to the old pagan systems. We've seen throughout history that ancient religions offered sacrifices to appease violent gods. Their offerings weren't devotion, they were desperation. By the time of Marcus Aurelius, the ancient Roman rituals had become an empty form of theater. Sacrifices were no longer believed. Meaning shifted over to Stoicism, philosophy, ethics, reason. In fact, philosophy was born out of spiritual disappointment with hollow religious practices. But the Torah never reduced sacrifice to superstition. Rav Shamshon Raphael Hirsch teaches that sacrifice, as Torah has it, is not bribery. It's a form of self-realignment. You weren't offering meat to a hungry God. You were offering yourself. This was a gesture, it was an expression of your own inner desire. And it turns out that God doesn't want transactional fear. He wants something that's much deeper, much higher. He wants yirah. He wants reverent awe. The kind of feeling that silences ego and opens the soul. So today, when you pray with sincerity, when you thank with humility, when you return to your highest self, you're offering something real. You're bringing yourself to the altar. Now, the Beit HaMikdash right now is yet to arrive, but the yearning to offer is still something real. To be part of something bigger than ourselves, that's something that's very much alive. And for most Noahides, the gateway to that spiritual yearning is not a mountain in Jerusalem. These days, it's a screen, your phone, your laptop, your digital self. Facebook groups, WhatsApp chats, Torah YouTube channels, these are the new courtyards. These are the courtyards that we're using these days. And like the ancient courtyard of the temple, the digital spaces can be filled with awe and sincerity, or they could be corrupted. So, in a time when outrage is rewarded and hollow declarations go viral, Noahides face a unique challenge to bring offerings online that are unblemished. Doesn't mean sense, it means discernment. Are your posts offered from a place of service? Do they reflect truth? Or are they spiritual performance? Is it performative? Even Torah discourse online can be affected by ego, by factionalism, and by spiritual vanity. What does an unblemished digital offering look like? It could be a sincere Torah insight that's shared with some humility, or a comment to somebody that builds them instead of beats them. It could be an attitude, a refusal to shame or to posture. It's not just etiquette, it's digital avoda. It can be a form of sacred service. You know, social media is not the altar, but your soul is. And how you offer it, even online, matters. The altar may be hidden, but invitation remains open. Shem does not ask for perfection. He asks for sincerity. He asks for unblemished giving, even if it's just your words. By the way, just your words. Prayer is it now. Prayer is our method of sacrifice now. Take full advantage of it. Invest time in it. Because that is the medium of communication. It always was, by the way. It wasn't like we didn't pray, we just sacrificed, and then when the temple was destroyed, we started praying. You see from the beginning of the book of Genesis, not just sacrifice, but conversation, verbal conversation between human beings and Hashem. So even if it's just your words, your heart, sincerity, prayer, the next time you speak with intention, or you give with love, or you pray with honesty, know that you are walking the path of the Beit HaMikdash. As we said before, the gates of the temple were never locked to the nations of the world, and neither are they now.